Welcome, everybody, to A Little Perspective. My name is Pranav, and this is Nikhil. Today's episode is very powerful and empowering. We had the opportunity to interview Jodi Barrett. Jodi is the owner and CEO of KB Stronger, an online platform focusing on kettlebell and kickboxing workouts.
Jodi is also the author of the book called I Don't Do Vanilla, and she lives by the motto that if you have a strong body, you'll have a strong mind. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as we did, and in the end, it leaves you with a little perspective.
Welcome, everybody, to A Little Perspective. Today we have a very special guest, Jodi Barrett. How's it going, Jodi?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
No, 100%. We're really excited, and thank you so much for making it over here. I know it's a pretty short trip for you.
It is.
Yeah?
Yes. It's a quick one.
100%. How are you feeling today?
I feel good. It's good. Got some sleep finally last night and had my coffee and my morning visit. So it's a good start to the day.
Awesome. So on this podcast, what we do is we get the ball rolling by just our guests telling us who they are, what they do, achievements, feats that you've conquered so far, just so that everybody's on the same page. So how about we start with that?
All right. So my name is Jodi Barrett and I own currently KB Stronger Training. I started my first business across the country in 2017, which was kettlebell kickboxing in Canada. I had stayed home for 11 years as a stay-at-home mom, and then life threw me a couple of curveballs, and I changed lanes and launched a kettlebell company where I train trainers across Canada, and then I evolved into workshops, and then I started doing more classes, and then I opened a studio in the middle of the pandemic. So then I involved online, which allowed me some global reach, and I started doing retreats. Got to do a couple of pretty cool retreats, and then I started writing for different magazine publications. And yeah, last December I rolled into online space fully, and I moved.
Yeah.
I was here for 30 years, and I decided it was time to grow, and I created some really uncomfortable space for myself. And yeah, so I'm in the online training space now. I still do my certifications, working on workshops, but I am in Calgary now. So that's a sum up.
No, that's pretty good. So quite the life journey you've had so far. Yeah. And you mentioned the switch from being a stay-at-home mom and now owning your own business. How was the journey so far? A reflection point, how was that?
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was it's not, how when you go through life, you kind of have an idea how you think it's going to go. And not in my wildest dreams could I have ever, if you would have asked me when I was 30, would I be here? Would I be here even, right? Sitting here having this conversation, doing the things I've been able to do. Yeah. So, it's all obtainable. You have to want to do it.
Right. So what was your inflection point? Why did you decide to change? What happened?
Yeah, well, when I got separated, and I was always into fitness. And, when you go through something heavy, you have to kind of have some endpoints where you want to go. And I knew I didn't want to, I always think it's not the greatest word, have a regular Monday to Friday. And I thought I had a second chance to do something really that impacted me, that could impact others. So I thought, you get a second chance to kind of start to rewrite your story, and you want it to look different. So that was when I started going down that road. But it took me a while to figure that out, because when you try so hard to figure something out, sometimes you can't, because you're so overwhelmed by it. So for me, it was the process of actually just being. I decided literally, I'm going to be, and be meant to me, I'm going to figure out who I am. I'm going to be me. I'm not going to put any stress on myself of what I need to figure out. So by being, I started to think of and do things. What do I like? Do I like this? No, don't like this. So it was a process of understanding what you do and what you don't like. So it's kind of was an elimination thing for me. So that was kind of that helped me get to that point. And I've grown up with fitness. Like since I was 14, I was a junior lifeguard at age 14, right?
Yeah.
So I've been teaching since I was 14. So it was a natural place for me to be.
So how'd you like incorporate like your fitness, like your passion for fitness while you were like a stay-at-home mom? Did you like do workouts at home, or like did you always have in mind that, yeah, like this is something I really want to get into some point in my life?
Yeah, well, I learned at a young age that I learned without even knowing. Because sometimes we do stuff and we just do it. And then you, like when you get older, you start to reflect on, oh, I use that as a tool already.
Yeah.
So I use fitness to help me navigate, or physical movement, let's just call it movement, to navigate life's journey. When I felt overwhelmed, I would go outside because I felt calm being outdoors. It grounded me more. I would run. I would, my sports, all of that. When you're going through stuff, it helped you navigate a little bit better. So when I stayed at home, I still trained. I remember getting up in the morning and making sure that I was swimming for a half an hour before I could go back home and then get the kids up and get them going. So I always kept it in my life because it gave me a sense of balance. Because you're stressed out about this, so then you go, because we all know movement is a de-stressor.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it was a natural progression once I realized it was okay that that's the road I wanted to go. Because you go through, when you go through a big life change, people are like, you should do this. You should do this. And then I sat with it like, well, I kind of want to do this. Like, what's wrong with that? Right. So when I first launched my company, I felt like I had people kind of like, oh, she's going through a midlife crisis. What is she doing? Mm-hmm. But it was such a natural thing for me to use fitness or movement for my business. Like I said, I started working when I was 14. My parents were farmers/ranchers. I saw them like entrepreneurs at the finest, right? Like when you have to work your business because of what the weather does. Like I learned that stuff. I remember my dad saying, why couldn't you just get a Monday to Friday job, right? Because it's, for him, it was like, that was the safe route for me.
Right.
And he's like, why did you ever want to be an entrepreneur? And I'm like, Dad, I watched you and Mom from a child, right? And they always say the story when they went through BSE and my parents had cattle. My dad was a butcher at one point. So they put a shop on the farm. So I watched them pivot. So I learned that at such a young age, always, how to navigate. So I always, when I decided that I wanted to actually do something for me that I enjoyed doing, where I thought I could help people, I think it felt like sometimes it was hard, to figure it out, but I feel like it was always just there, just me allowing it to be what I wanted to do.
Right. And like there's no way for us to know how you felt in that moment when you were going through such phases of your life. So how did you come out stronger? Because a lot of people and we talked about this in the previous episodes as well, that adversity is so tricky that it can either completely swallow you inside mm-hmm. and you can't escape it, or you just have to power through. But that also takes people's help or just your own mindset. Yeah. How did you do it?
I think mindset was huge. I think resilience is huge. And I think resilience is something that you were learned as a child. And I always think about how we tend to bubble wrap our children. And I did it also. And we shouldn't. Because those are the skills that teach you to be able to get back up. And I think that, some of us, if you look back at our life's journey, it's how we all react different. We all have a different resilience because of what our journey looked like. I thought about different things, like I did that challenge with the Navy SEAL, and we talked about perspective a lot. And I had a procedure during the 21 days that my doctor said, give me at least 48 hours, Jodi, of like sitting. Because she knew I was busy. She knew how active I was. And I pretty much said to her, I'm like, give me the least amount of time that you need me to sit because I'm busy and I move. And so she gave me 48 hours. I knew I had this challenge. I knew I would fail, which was super hard because number one, I had 2 trainers doing the challenge with me. So 2 of the people I certified were doing it with me. And I'm hanging out with a Navy SEAL.
Which is
right?
insane.
Which is insane because I'm like, the mindset is, oh my gosh, but my mindset was I honored and valued the knowledge that the doctor gave me. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna set this aside. Getting back to your question about your resilience, and his perspective was the day when we went on a Zoom call, he said to me, so you let our doctor tell you what to do. And I was like, point taken. Because his perspective was, he's like, if I would have got, if I had a broken back and I was on the battlefield, would I let a doctor say, you can't walk that soldier across the street or you can't carry him across the field, right? And he would do it.
Yeah.
So because of his perspective and his life's journey, it's different, right? So again, I think that we all do things differently because of our life's journey. And I get back to, letting kids fail. Kids that do hard things. I remember my daughter biking downtown and from East Regina down to my studio with some friends. And she got down there, she says, they're all like exhausted. And she's like, Mom, can you drive me home? And I'm like, well, I can, but not for 2 hours because I still have to finish work. And so in that time frame, she's like, well, I'm just going to go back. Like, I'm going to bike back. And she biked back and she called me that night and she said, I feel so much accomplishment. And feel, because we have to go through stuff and feel it. And that what builds our resiliency and builds our willpower. If I would have had time to take her, I would have robbed her of that. I would have robbed her of that knowing that she could accomplish something.
Right.
Right? Because as parents, we think that we're helping our kids because, oh, she's tired. She did good. She came down this far. I'll take her back. Well, what about letting them finish? Does it have a suck part in it where it's like she's tired, she's exhausted? Right. Absolutely. But guess where we learn our resilience and our willpower? In that part. And that's the power of movement. And that's when we train and I teach people that you will, in that small window when it's like your last 20 kettlebell swings, your last 20 push-ups, where it's hard, but when you're done, you've not only accomplished something, but you have created something inside of yourself that nobody can touch. Like you do that and you do that. I can't say, well, that wasn't very good. It's like, doesn't matter what you think because it's internal, right? So I always go so far from a question and then I come back and I'm like, did I answer
No, we love that. Trust me.
We want more and more stories.
Right? Exactly. I'm like, did I answer your question? So again, I think resilience, that stuff, that's how you grow from it. And I think that's why everybody has different life experiences. You think about COVID, people react differently. I feel like people who might have had a not tougher, what would be the word? If you had more of a challenging life before that, you might have walked through that and went, we'll deal with it. Yeah. Like it's just like today.
Yeah.
Right? But because everyone have different life experiences and you have to understand that, when I wrote my book, if I was to give the book to, 3 people would have a different perspective on what I wrote. It may not even be the perspective of me. But when you read it, because of your life experience, it'll reflect. And then I feel like when you can get enough knowledge to understand that we're sitting here 3 people, that we all have different perspectives because of our journey. But I can also appreciate your perspective without having a judgment, right? So I think you kind of have to, you learn to take in all that stuff into consideration.
So freaking true what you just said. The example about how, like people say take it easy, how parenting.
Yeah.
Like I used to play soccer a lot when I was young, and I remember I would come home and I would hurt my knee. My knee would be bleeding. I would hurt my shin. There was one time I had stitches in my knee. And my mom would, every time she would tell me, Nikhil, play easy, play easy. I'm like, Mom, that's not how it works. It's not an easy sport. I'm supposed to get hurt. And I just look back on it. If I hadn't been hurt that many times, I wouldn't have been like I'm not saying I'm a great, but I would have been like a okay soccer player too.
Yeah.
Like that's how it is. Like you get down, you get up. You get down, you get up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's so freaking true. Like we have to go through that harsh part. Mm-hmm. Even I remember there was one fight that Mike Tyson had, and he had just broken his back before the fight, and he still fought and he knocked out the person. That's amazing.
Yeah. Like, and I was thinking too, like, yesterday we were talking about the guy that did the world record.
Yeah.
Right? It's your mindset. We are so much more capable of so many more things. But either we just are simply, and I think it's okay. I don't think we need to judge people that don't want to go to those places, because I always think of my dad, because I think about when I was in Costa Rica on my retreat. I was in this beautiful place, and back home I knew it was snowing, and people were messaging me and they're like, oh, it's terrible here. I called my dad that morning and he's like, Jodi, it is magical here. And I was like, perspective. Right? And he is so happy in where he is. He has no desire to travel, and that's okay.
Right.
So there's magic in that too.
Yeah.
Like I like intense, hard things because I've kind of conditioned myself that I like that. But if I'm sitting with somebody who doesn't, and that's okay too. Doesn't make one person better than the other. But you have to figure out if, like, am I happy in this, doing it like this? Are they happy? At the end of the day, does what they're doing bring themselves joy? Because I think we're all here to have joy and enjoy the journey, right? You just got to figure out what you want your journey to look like.
Right. Yeah. I'm just gonna track back to the example that you gave of the doctor. Like he said, like if your back's broken, then don't go to the war. It's so freaking magical. So there was a story that scientists had said that no person on this earth can run a sub 4-minute mile. Like nobody can run a mile under 4 minutes.
Yeah.
They proved it with science, and they wrote so many papers about it. There was a guy who did it.
Yeah.
And then after he did it, within like couple years, 10 other people did it.
Right.
So it's so much about mindset. But yeah, so freaking right. That doctor had a very different experience than the warrior.
Right. Yeah. And he used it and that's the thing too, is science is great. It's phenomenal. It guides us so much. But there's other things that exist outside, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to nerd out for a second. Like, this is just like how I perceive like what you guys are talking to. So there's like this thing called the placebo effect. Mm-hmm. So what happens is like a common example is like a doctor gives two people who have the same disease 2 different milkshakes, and just tell them that or like if it's maybe one person, they give them 2 different types of milkshakes.
Yeah.
So one is just a normal milkshake, and the second one, it's been told that this has like something mixed in it, like a element X or something, that will cure you. So he took the first milkshake, no results, still has a disease. He took the second milkshake, and he's like, no, I'm feeling better. Like the test they did like over like a course of a week or something, the dude's been healed. Turns out it was the exact same milkshake.
Right.
There was nothing different in it. It's just like how powerful your mind is, that if you feed it the right thing, you will get exactly what you want out of it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the main limit that we put on ourselves is our thinking, is our mindset.
100%.
Like what you told me to, like the retreat that you did, like how you do and I watch like your Instagram videos every single day. Like you do those last 25 push-ups as well. Mm-hmm. So you do like 100 push-ups every single day. It's easy to tell yourself that I got a sprain or something, or my hands are tired, or I can't really push myself. Mm-hmm. But that's just your mind playing tricks on you.
Yes.
And it's so fascinating that if you feed it the right thing, you will get exactly what you want out of it. It's not that hard. Like David
Simple
Goggins
things
does
are
it.
hard.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Everybody does it.
Yeah.
David Goggins does it. People like who are out there who are like crazy about fitness or anything that they do.
Yeah.
Well, they're all humans in the end. If one person can do it, you can do it.
Right. And it's finding ways, like for me, it's finding ways to get that little bit into other people's lives, right? Like you don't have to be a David Goggins,
Right.
right? You don't have to be a superhero, but what can you do to make your life the best version within that day sometimes even, right? Doesn't have, just break it down to that day and changing that mindset. I always say when we train, we do, people, when they say, well, I fell off the wagon again. And I'm like, okay. So I always big picture it. So if you haven't worked out for 3 years, I always say, I hate to tell you this, but it's going to take 3 years of conditioning for it to become such a habit, right? Like something that is so ingrained in your everyday life, it takes that time. It has to become habitual. It's the same thing with your mindset. You have to practice it. If you've had terrible mindset up until, well, let's use me as an example. For 40, well, I don't think your mindset, you can really work on it when you're a toddler, but what you're around, you're exposed to, right? Mm. If you have a terrible mindset up until age 35, or I would say, okay, so when I went through my separation, I was 38. So I had a pretty good solid, probably 4 years where I beat myself up a lot. So I'm over the hump now because I doubled that 40. So I'll be 49 tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So well, happy birthday in advance.
Well, thank you. So what I'm saying is, though, you have to work at it all the time. Your mindset, what you feed it, who you're around, right? Once you start training your mindset and you sit in a group of people and you listen to how they talk, you're aware, right? Like I spend some time with people that I just meet and I'm like, man, I just want to train with you, because you see how they beat themselves up and how they talk negatively about themselves, because mindset is the key to unlock everything. How do we unlock it? I unlock it with movement, because you move your body, you feel better. That's the science, right?
Right.
You start to move your body, you start to feel better. Now I can change how I think. So that's the key, I think, mindset and movement. And they don't, once you start to connect that, interlace that, then I think you can make some changes.
I've got a question for you. So, like, I see your videos every day on Instagram and all that. I see that you've fallen in love with kettlebells, right?
Kind of, right?
Yeah. How did that happen? Like, when did kettlebells come into the picture?
Kettlebells came into the picture when I was struggling to figure out what I wanted to do. I was not great internal dialogue. I will tell you in a moment. I found someone that I'd went to university with. Somebody said, he does garage workouts. And I'm like, okay, let's go give this a go. I remember he had blue mats, because I remember the space. I remember everything. The bell in front of me, touch the bell. And I call it my knowing that in an instant, I felt grounded and I felt like, there's something here. And then that just left me. Like I had that moment, and then I just started training with it. And for me, apparently I love fitness, but I wanted to be specific. I always say I like being good at things. I always try to do something I'm not good at because it's a really hard experience for me. But I wanted to just focus on a kettlebell and just be super, super niche-y with it. And I loved the idea that before I'll do a meeting, I will swing kettlebell for 30 swings, and it just grounds me. And so when I started to train with it and get certified with it, I just always felt like there was a connection, there was something that I could do with it. And I feel like now I'm like, it's the tool behind what I want to do with it, the mindset and the movement. So yeah, that's I was sometimes, like I said earlier, about I wish it was maybe yoga because yoga mats are light. Right now I'm doing workshops in Calgary and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'll be traveling again with bells in the back of my vehicle, right? That's a lot of weight. But yeah, it's such a great training tool because when you can figure it out, I like it because it makes you think. Like, you can go to the gym and do a workout and stand in a mirror and just mindlessly do a bicep curl, right? Or press. But usually when you're doing this or you're doing this, you're thinking, okay, I gotta go get groceries. I didn't pay that bill yesterday. Okay, I gotta do this. When I put a kettlebell in your hand, you're thinking, right? So it serves two purposes. Number one, it connects your mind and your body because the movements have to connect. Number two, you probably aren't thinking about groceries or bills, right?
Well, I'm scared it might fall on my feet.
Right.
What if it slips from my hand?
You know what? It's funny. Everybody always thinks that. There's so many things I like to debunk about that.
Yeah.
But not very often people ever drop a bell. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because it happens.
Yeah.
Most often in the studio when I was here, it would be my advanced trainers that were training on the mat, right? So it does happen. But again, you learn proper training with it. It's key. It's key. You don't go lift a big barbell with a lot of weights without knowing some knowledge, right?
100%.
It's the same thing. It's just for some reason, kettlebell, everyone kind of, I don't know if they're afraid of it. Maybe they don't know how to use it properly yet. Yeah.
Kettlebells are mostly used in like eastern part of the world, like Russia. There's
That's
this
right,
guy I
yeah.
follow called Pavel Satsulin,
Yeah.
and I think he brought kettlebells into the American culture, and like they're a great way to build your whole entire physique.
Yeah.
Like the kettlebell swing workout, it'll work as a squat, as a deadlift, and it'll do your cardio. It'll work on your core.
Shoulders.
It's like probably one of the best workouts there.
Yeah. So kettlebell's the only thing I train. Like, I'll use pull-up bar because you need to pull.
Yeah.
And push-ups and bells is all I use.
Yeah.
And I feel like I could go into a conventional training program and be just as equally strong. Well, why would I? I want to use the word waste my time, but that's one that pops to my head. Why would I waste my time moving from different pieces of equipment when I can grab my bell and be in my living room
Right.
and give myself a 20-minute workout and go, done. Now let's go live my life. Right?
That's awesome. So when you mentioned that when you first touched that kettlebell, you were like, hey, this is my calling, this is my knowing. So from that moment on until your business, how did you connect the dots there?
I started doing some Muay Thai training.
Oh, wow.
And then I was on Instagram and I came across kettlebell kickboxing out of New York. And I got certified here in Saskatchewan, in Regina. And then I was just like, and I'd hurt myself and I was like, okay, I feel like I wanted more education so I can better, serve myself and serve others. And then I came across that one just because there was a connection with martial arts training in with the kettlebell. Because martial arts, you have used kettlebell for years, way before, And so I went there and got certified. And yeah, it was just like I kind of knew, it all just kind of led me one to another, basically. And so the training I do now too, it's all like we use martial arts motion. You never know it. I will specifically tell you because there's, everybody uses different names for everything, right? But the mobility part, the functional training of it, that's where it comes from.
That's awesome.
Yeah, kettlebells are great, honestly.
So when you say Pavlov, so that came in 85. They brought it more into the States.
Yeah.
So the back history there with that was he connected with Steve Maxwell. Steve Maxwell was a big martial artist, he was martial artist kettlebell because he has the MKC, Maxwell Kettlebell Certification. So when I was in New York, I did a private cert. He did a private certification with me. So yeah, it's like the evolution that came from Russia he did it. The lady who I got certified under and got the region from, she trained underneath Steve Maxwell.
Oh, wow.
So then we got connected there. So yeah,
So
it's
you
pretty
learn from the
cool because
best.
you're kind of in the lineage, right, of where it came from when it came over to the States. And there's so much potential for it to grow still, because you think, well, I know 85 sounds like a long time ago,
Right.
but it's really not.
No.
To think about how long, it's been, from Russia, the day when they were using it to weigh things. And then it went into the strongman competition. So,
Right.
yeah.
So I'm actually training for boxing right now, and like I have a trainer who like teaches me techniques.
Yeah.
We do cardio, we do a little bit of conditioning with dumbbells and stuff.
Yeah.
But what I'm planning to do is I'm planning to add another workout that I'll do by myself.
Yeah.
And I've been exploring, functional fitness and stuff.
Yeah.
But like going to the gym, doing bench press and stuff, I
Yeah.
want to add that day too. But I want to add a kettlebell workout as well. So like I don't know if you have any suggestions that would be
Well, I know
boxing
somebody
related.
who could help you. Totally could help you with that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. You can just you could go online and train the program,
Okay.
because there's all exclusives on there. So I do the lives 3 times a week. And then I have exclusives that go up, like there's a 5-minute program if you want to do, cardio. There's a cardio workout with the bell. There's core strength, exclusive strength. So lots of option. I help you.
What do you specifically train when you say you train for martial arts? Like what kind of workouts do you do with kettlebells?
With them, so it's mostly the mobility, the movement, right? So think about, you swing a bell, you mid-racket, you stand on one foot, you do a push kick with a reverse lunge that goes down to a jiu-jitsu kick out.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's hard to kind of visual, because when I say it, you probably don't have a clue what I'm talking about. But it's taking little bits and pieces of something and kind of weaving it in to your training. So even for you with boxing, because I used to date a boxer and he was, we would kettlebell all the time. But so we could bring it into his kettlebell training or like his programming for his boxing, because it's functional, right?
Yeah.
Your biggest strength will be in your mobility training, because mobility is strength
Right.
and flexibility together, right? Where are you going to get the strongest? Within there, right? I never thought about mobility training when I was in my 20s. I don't even know if it was something that I don't know if it was even a word that we would have used then. But I always say, if you can start your training now, it'll benefit you for the rest of your life. Because when you get to be my age, if you haven't done it, because things your body ages. We can't change that, but we can change how we move it. But if you implement that as a younger age, you will be so much more ahead of the game.
Right.
Moving freely forever. And that's what you want. You want to be able to move freely, pain-free. Like when I teach and train people, yes, they have goals. Yours would be for your boxing. That's a goal. But at the end of the day, I want people to be able to move without pain or limited pain, so they can actually get out and enjoy the day, right?
So like how we can totally figure that out. Like kettlebells are like a first love kind of thing. So over the course of building yourself up after, like how people say like you start from ground zero and you've built yourself up, how's the journey been taking other people up with you? Because you train so many people, right?
Mm-hmm.
How's that journey been for you?
You might give me goosebumps. That's you have to do yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can't do that, you can't do with others. But that is probably one of the most incredible things that I'm able to do, is to watch somebody else progress and change. And, so many people think, they always say, I can't do that. And I'm like, you don't have to be me. I never, ever want, because you'll never be me, because I'm me, right? We're all 3 different people. But I want you to it's helping them figure out to be their best self, right? And having that light bulb go off when somebody says, well, I can't do a push-up, and I take them over to the wall and I say, yes, you can, and you do 5 wall push-ups, and then they go, oh, I never I never even thought. Does that equate that? Absolutely. Like, you can be a rock star standing up or doing them on the ground, because everybody's so individual. Right? We don't want it. Can you imagine if we were all the same? Oh my God. How
Boring
boring.
world. Yeah.
How boring would that be? So yeah, that's it's a great part. The journey of self-love is where I would want everybody to go to work on themselves. You got to figure that out. You do. But once you do, and then you're able to, it's kind of like that thing. I always go back to the on the airplane, put on your own mask before you put it on someone else.
Right.
It's very simple. Simple stuff is hard.
Yeah.
Right? Figuring that out. We talk about it easily, like waking up and brushing our teeth, but it's those, and it's funny because as I get older, you know, all those sayings that I remember when I was younger, and I would hear them, I'd be like, roll my eyes. I'm like, seriously? And then I'm like, wow, they're on to something there, right? But yeah, it's like you have to figure out how to take care of yourself.
Yes,
then you can help better.
Right.
Right?
It's like how I think we talked about this last time as well. We were talking about the gym too.
Mm-hmm.
Like the hardest battle is to show up for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
That's where like the biggest problem lies.
And what does that have to do with your body or your mind?
Well, everything. I feel like your mind is like the ones that's so weak that it can't allow yourself to like get out of bed, get in the car, and just drive to the gym.
Right. But your body is very capable of that.
100%, 100%.
But it's your mind.
Yeah.
That you have to convince.
Because like once you're in the gym, you're not like a lunatic who's just gonna stand there and just look at people. Right. I mean, you're gonna work out in some way or the other.
Yeah.
But training this is where like the main problem lies. Yeah. So, you know, like just circling back to what we just talked about. So what is your why?
My why? Oh, my why is to help people connect that. To have that moment of, oh.
The one you had with the kettlebell?
Yeah. Not even so much the knowing of but the moment where you go working on movement and mindset isn't about training. It's not. It's about how you can use those tools to enrich your life. Right? Like, I could sit here and I could correlate just about every training thing with life, with business, with personal. How are you showing up for you on a daily basis within your training will reflect everything.
Right.
Right?
You know, I don't think I've ever mentioned this to like Nikhil either, but like so you two are like my like in a way like my main inspirations to actually start like the Instagram videos that I post too.
Yeah.
Because so Nikhil actually inspired me to make daily videos because he did like his task of like running.
I stopped now because I had a low back injury. I was doing like a 30-minute run every single day.
Yeah.
20-minute run every single day. I will wake up at 5 and just go for a run, post it on social media.
Yeah.
And I didn't have running shoes, so I was running in Converse, and I was doing like concrete running. So after like 15 days, I realized, you know what? That's not the best idea because my lower back hurts a lot. So I had to stop.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to start something else.
Yeah. But no, like when he started that, it gave me like a really huge boost because like I always wanted to like do something related to like fitness and like, you know, just like life lessons that we learn. And when I talked to you, when you told me that you do 100 push-ups every single day and you did that for the past 4 or 5 years, I was like, that is one of the most insane things because like that much dedication is insane. So what I did was like I started doing like 60 push-ups and like my ab workouts as well. Yeah. But no, just like I never mentioned that, but like I got the push-ups thing from you and like the daily thing from him.
It's good, right? So, and that's the thing is that like I feel like if I can help someone, one person a day here and there, right? I had someone who messaged me from here. They're like, Jodi, I don't put kettlebell in my full workouts. I do other things, but I show up for myself for an hour every day. And he said, and it's because of you, because you started me down that road. And I'm like, there is nothing more heart feeling than that. Like, I tell you, I don't have it with me because I'm not like situated in one spot right now, but normally I have a blue folder that I keep on my end table or my desk, no, my like nightstand. That's what I'm looking for. And it is people that have sent me messages. I screenshot it and then I would print them.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'd put them in the folder. So then when business gets hard and I wonder why I do what I do, because I'm like, some days are like, they are hard, they are heavy, and it's just a tool I use, and I open it up and I read. Like, I will screenshot that conversation with him and I'll go, that's my why. Because I get to help someone. And that fills my cup. So I guess that's my why.
That's really cool. I've never heard or seen anybody do that. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, because it's like, it's helped me business-wise to bring myself back. Because this is such a roller coaster, being an entrepreneur, right? So, and I probably would say I'm a pretty emotional person. So I had to figure out tools to kind of keep me here. So, right. So yesterday, because I was up at 4:00 in the morning, I had some business stuff I probably should have done, but I knew and I know about myself that I'm tired, I'm tapped out. I've already answered and done most of those this morning because I know I need sleep.
Right.
So if I have a non-sleep day and it's in my life, I'm like, no major business decisions, no personal decisions. I just put them off till I get a little rest, and then I can deal with it. But those are, and the little screenshots with the printouts of people, that's just how I've learned to navigate entrepreneurial life.
It's like your own gratitude journal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do write gratitude every morning. I didn't write it this morning. I said it out loud.
Okay.
And every day.
You mentioned that you're also a writer,
Yeah.
right? How's that?
I love to write. You know, it's funny because when I was in university, I was like, who needs English? But now I'm like, oh wow, I really needed it. I journaled a lot, and then when with business, I wanted to I want to make an impact through writing, and I want to be recognized and credible with who I am within the industry. So then I started writing for different fitness and wellness magazines. And then I was like, as I journaled my life, people kept kind of throwing it up there. You should write a book. You should write a book. And I was like, maybe I should. And so then one day I just decided, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. So I contacted a lady. I actually wrote in a chapter in a book before. And I reached out to her and I'm like, I'm ready to write my book. So, yeah. So I did. I picked 16 Sundays because I'm so that person who wants to lay out a goal. I picked 16 Sundays. I wanted to be done on the 26th of May last year. I'd go to Starbucks every Sunday for an hour because I'd have to dedicate, because you have to dedicate.
Yeah.
Time. You don't do it, right? So yeah. So then I wrote my book and I published it last October.
Go check out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So the book, I Don't Do Vanilla, right? That's the book. So is it like an autobiography, or like how does it work? Like what's the book about? How would it tell us who Jodi is?
It's a memoir. So it's stories of getting back up. So it's basically goes back as far as when my middle daughter was sick for her first year, and just how it kind of stripped me raw of who I was, and how I had to start to build some faith again. So, and it was just kind of the rolling part of, it takes you through my separation, starting a new business, what that all looks like. And yeah, so it's just stories of my life thus far.
So in that moment when you were writing the book, what's the hardest thing that you had to open up to the rest of the world?
The hardest thing I had to open up to was sharing not to strangers, but sharing to people close to me. Because we don't necessarily care. We kind of care. You know, when people say, I don't care what people think anymore, I kind of think that's a load of crap. Because we all, and when you respect and love people, you care about how it affects them. So when I wrote it, I talked about my separation, right? So I was like, how are my kids gonna handle that, right? So, and I wrote in the book, I even wrote at the beginning something like, I don't know if they'll ever read it, and I hope one day that they just understand and see through a different lens. Because again, I know that they could read it and think, that's not what I remember. Because again, we have all different perspective. But yeah, so the biggest challenge there wasn't ever sharing with the world, because it was sharing probably to my inner circle. But the most beautiful part about that, when I shared it, the people that shared their stories. And that's the power of sharing. You know, when I share with you something heartfelt, it opens a door or a window to say, I'm in a safe place. I'm going to share with you. And then it allows us to connect, right? And that's why when I was done writing it last May, I wasn't going to publish it, because I went through a healing process when I wrote it, and I thought, well, maybe this was why. This was my why for writing it. And then I had that little thing in my brain that was like, no, that wasn't why you wrote it. And I wrote it because of the power of sharing, so that, you know, somebody else could go, oh, I don't feel alone because someone else. Because we all have this weird thing that we think we're alone because we keep it here. Now, if I share something personal and deep with you and you go, oh, I felt that way. So then you go, oh, I'm not alone. And then I go, oh, geez, I'm not alone either, because you felt that way too. Right. So it's like, it's just that deep connection of when people go through, you know, I always say my story is unique to me, but it's not really unique to life in general, because we all go through trials and tribulations. So it's the connecting part.
That's what I love about art. There's this actor that I follow called Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
And he's like a very successful artist, writer, actor.
Yeah.
And he had this TED Talk video in which he talks about how art sometimes is not a luxury, but a necessity for people. Mm-hmm. So suppose you are in love with somebody and you can't see straight, and you just you just find some poetry or something, and you're like, has anyone ever felt like this before? I'm grieving about somebody's loss, and has anyone ever felt like this before? And they stumble upon your book or anything, like it just brings on that human connection.
Yes.
And isn't that why we're all here, like to connect with each other?
Right?
Because we're not alone. No matter how much we think, we're not alone. The human experiences, that's exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Your story is unique, but the experiences, people have had that before, and if that can bring a connection, I feel like you're doing a great thing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think I feel like we just have to learn that when we feel depressed, we go within. And I say this because I did it. Like when my daughter was sick, I've never felt more alone during that time. And I blocked everybody out, because I think it's just a natural thing that we do. And I think that we have to figure out and learn, and again, it's through mindset, through movement, all of that, that's when you need people the most, right? And I'm not saying you need a room full of people. You need one person that you can let into your space to help you. Not even help you, but just be there. I always call it hold space. Because when I went through my separation, I was like, just want someone to hold space for me. Meaning, if I'm having a moment where things suck and I'm laying on the floor staring at the ceiling, I don't need somebody to come in and pat my back and say, get up, get up. I just need someone to sit there beside me and say, you're okay. And then we're going to get up. And I think people need that. Because I think we're all so capable of doing. We just need to feel like we've got a team. I remember this totally reminded me of a gal that I met in Calgary. I did a couple women talks, I guess that's what they would be called. And she was saying how there was a lady who did a talk, and she was talking and she was like just so distraught and having a really hard time. And another woman got up because she was talking about a really intense story. And a woman got up behind her and she just stood behind her. And she said the lady just calmed down and she was able to finish her talk. And the woman wouldn't look like she did a whole bunch, but the idea of it is the power of being present in somebody's space to show support. And I think without words, there's so much power in that.
Right. You know, this reminds me of our conversation when we met last time.
Yeah.
You mentioned that, and you know, like, it's a basic fact that everybody has like those dark days that sometimes you just can't get up. And even I'm sure like you probably face that a lot, like more than any of us here, that no matter how strong you are, like your smile is like so energetic. Like if you see you smile, I'm smiling too, that you radiate that energy off so much. But I bet there was a time in your life too, or been numerous times where you were like, hey, I just don't know what to do. And this reminds me of the conversation where you were away from family. And I think you were in a hotel room, you mentioned, and you were just not able to function. So how did you get through that? Like, why don't we, like...
How do I get through it?
Yeah, you told me, like, we had a conversation about that.
Yeah, like, again, through practice and through tools. Like, I go to my 3 tools because we are creatures of habit. We love habit. We need it.
Right. So
I always say to people, I'm like, when you are going through something hard, have 3 things. Just 3 things. Keep them simple so that you can, because again, simple things are hard. And especially when you are on a downward spiral, you're depressed, and the world is super, super heavy. So my 3 things are morning gratitude. I write. Sometimes it's 5 words, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 20, depending on where I'm at. The other one is my movement, because movement will change how I feel. So that's why I do my push-ups. So my morning thing is gratitude. I do 50 push-ups. I start my 100 for the day. And then I have coffee, which brings me joy because it allows me a minute to go. And it might be all I get in the day where I get to go, but I took that minute to breathe. And for me, I've learned that gratitude gives me perspective first thing in the morning. And when I'm having a crappy week, maybe that gratitude is, I'm grateful for today. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful I opened my eyes. And then my movement. But those are my 3 things. And those are my 3 things I go to a lot. And they set up my day.
Right. And I bet you need that too, because like you mentioned, like you travel so much that sometimes you don't have the people that are your close circle with you all the time. Because like you mentioned, like this lady who was talking and she almost froze, right? But somebody was there behind her back.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just don't have that.
Yes.
Like when we were having that conversation, you were alone. Literally. It's not like you just wanted to be alone. You were physically away from family.
Yeah. Well, right now I am physically.
Right, exactly.
Like, I have 30 years I've been here. But it's interesting is when you know where you're supposed to be. And I guess it's like, I feel like I always go here because I feel like it hits me here. A knowing. Like I spent my first Mother's Day away from my mom and my kids. First time in my life.
Hard?
Oh, hard. But as I'm in hard, I ask myself, compared to what? I'm here this weekend. I wasn't here 3 weeks ago, but so I always check myself because it was hard. I recognize it was hard. I don't dismiss my feelings. And I probably cried that day a little bit because it was sad, and that's how I release. But then I asked myself, Jodi, it's hard compared to what? You're going to see them in 3 weeks. Some people don't see their families for years. So then it gives me perspective. And then I'm grateful again. So I use that as a circle to pull myself back, right?
So Jodi, you won't take any more of your time. I know you're short on time too. I would love to do like a second podcast where we talk about more fitness.
We could come to Calgary.
We'll
take our stuff.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
We'll wrap our stuff up.
Right, and then I'll get my space with where I will do my studio work, and we can set it up there.
And we can
You know what we can do? We can
No, I'm kidding.
we can carry all the equipment, go on the top of a mountain, do a hike, and then shoot on the top.
Oh,
How does
you
that
just put
sound?
that out there. Are we gonna do it?
No, trust me. Like this is something
Let's do
that
it.
I'm actually down, because I don't know if you follow this guy. His name is Lex Friedman.
Okay.
So he's like I could be wrong, but like space engineer,
Yeah.
one of the smartest guys out there. He took a trip with his buddy to the Amazon
Yeah.
rainforest, and he shot a podcast in the middle of where it's the most dense population of wildlife,
Yeah.
like trees, plants, and everything. And you can hear like the background. There's like, insects, animals,
Yeah.
birds, everything.
Yeah.
And he said the person he shot the podcast with,
Yeah.
I think like a 0.2 something, like I could be wrong with the stats, but like there's more life than anywhere.
Yeah. In that space.
Right. And they shot a podcast in the middle of the Amazon rainforest jungle. So that'd be pretty cool. I mean, we can do that. Why not?
Yeah.
There's not gonna be any commotion up there.
Yeah.
There's not
Our
gonna be any
next
commotion.
podcast would be on top of a mountain for sure.
With you.
Yeah,
We're doing it.
let's go.
Right. I'm in.
100%.
So towards the end of a podcast, we do like a rapid fire round. I'm gonna
Okay.
ask you 3 questions. Pranav's gonna ask you 3
Oh, gosh.
questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on, should I have a drink?
Well, you have
Prep myself.
a word or a sentence to answer it. So
So
we'll,
just
we'll
So-
be easy on you. We'll be easy on
Keep
you.
it short. Try to stay focused. Okay.
There we go.
how would you describe a Navy SEAL in one word?
Powerful.
If you could go back in time and talk to your 20-year-old self, what's that one piece of advice you would give young Jodi?
Love yourself.
What's one thing that you didn't value in the past, but now you really, really do?
Time with my family.
What is one of the biggest regrets that you've had in your life that you wish you could go back and just change?
That when I went through my separation, my kids felt so much pain.
What are you most grateful for right now?
That's a really good one. Right in this moment, I am grateful that you've given me your time.
That means a lot to us.
That's the same coming from us to you,
Yeah.
trust me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you could have a conversation with anybody in this world, dead or alive, from the past, the current moment, anybody, who would that be?
My grandma.
Oh, that's awesome. That's actually insane. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a perfect note to end this podcast.
100%. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jodi, for giving us your time. And
Thank you so
It was so freaking inspiring.
Yeah. Trust me, like every conversation we've had so far, I know we've only had 2, but I think it's just so moving to see what you've created. And like we say, like from ground zero into like where you are right now. And there's only exponential moves for you higher up. So thank you so much for what you've done, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you for being on A Little Perspective.
Thank you for having me.